You're listening to the main event with Zach Gelb and Mike Zahn on WHIP.
It's game day, baby. 7 o'clock tonight in Charlotte. It's the Temple Owls going up against the Charlotte 49ers. You're listening to Zach Gelb and Mike Zahn right here on Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Take you up until noon Eastern time, where the Temple Sports Hour will come your way. On the hotline with us right now is Temple University royalty, the runner-up in the 1986 Heisman Trophy presentation, played here at Temple University under legendary coach Bruce Arians, and now is a color analyst for Temple football on 97.5 The Fanatic. He's in Charlotte right now, and that is Paul Boo Boo Palmer. Paul, Zach, and Mike here on Temple's campus. Thanks for a few minutes, and how are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm wonderful. I'm trying to stay dry down here in Charlotte, but I'm doing good.
So it seems like there's going to be a lot of rain in Charlotte tonight. What is the weather looking like right now, and what are you hearing about this game tonight?
I'm hearing that I hope we play it. But it looks like it's going to hold up. Like I said, right now it's wet. It feels kind of cool, but from what I understand, it'll probably be worse on Saturday than it is right now. So hopefully we can have the game and move on to Saturday and get the heck out of here before it hits Saturday.
Well, that's good news for this Temple football team, and a Temple University spokesman told me last night they do still plan to play the game, so everyone could still make their plans to watch the Owls at 7 o'clock. What was the worst conditions you've ever played in for a football game?
Oh, wow, the worst. I'll tell you what, we played at Pitt one year where it was like a tsunami. I mean, it was like waterfalls running down the aisles. We also played at BYU one year, and it was really strange. The weather went from sunny to like snow flurries, and then we got some hail, and it kind of went back to sunny and snow flurries and hail, and then it finally just, in the second half, it was just beautiful and nice and sunny. I guess being around all those mountains out at BYU kind of gave us crazy weather.
When you have a game like this where the conditions should be sloppy, the number one key is ball security. The last two games, Jihad Thomas has coughed up the football in the final 2 minutes of each of those games, going back to Cincinnati and UMass. I know they had a bye week. What would your advice be to Jihad Thomas about playing in these kind of conditions and also holding on to the football? How do you fix that as a running back?
Well, first and foremost, I spoke to him after the first time a couple of weeks ago, and he fumbled, and he really took it hard. He was, as great of a game as he had, he was so down afterwards about his fumble. I think, all you can do is at practice you have to reinforce the fact that he needs to hold on to the ball. You don't want to beat him up about it and make him worried about it, because you want your running backs to be able to just run. But you just reinforce to him that he's got to hold on to the ball. And he hasn't shown really a habit of fumbling the ball. For whatever reason, in those two instances, the ball came out. He's a good back. I wouldn't beat him up too much about it. Every now and then I would say, hold on to the ball, and I'd kind of let him go. I don't want him being cautious and not being himself. I want him to run the ball, but just you got to hold on to it while you run it.
We're talking to former Temple running back and color commentator on 97.5 The Fanatic, Paul Palmer. And Paul, I think that this is a Temple football team that has been generating a ton of buzz. I don't know if you've been in contact with some of your former teammates. Are they aware of the buzz that this Temple football team has been generating lately?
My former Temple teammates, I've been contacted by different people saying how proud they were of how the team was doing and how good the team is. As a matter of fact, in my circle of friends, I have a couple people driving down from Philly, South Jersey, as we speak, and they should be arriving within the next 30 minutes. I have another group of buddies, ex-ball players, driving down from the D.C. area, and they should be arriving also within the next hour or so. So we're aware of it, very much aware of it. And every time I see these kids and I get a chance to speak to them, I just tell them how proud they're making a whole bunch of old guys feel.
A lot of that buzz is generated around Jihad Thomas, and he's been a great running back for this Temple Owls team. A little bit of a surprise. Started off on defense, now he's on offense. Elizabeth, New Jersey connection between him and P.J. Walker clearly has been working. But moving forward, after Jihad, which is inevitably going to happen before we know it, what do you think moving forward with players like Hood, Armstead, and Simmons? What does the rest of the future look like for this Temple running game?
Well, I'll tell you what. I really believe that the backs that Temple brought in this year especially had kind of motivated him to play better. And thank God for us that he has risen to the occasion, and he's holding those young guys off. Those guys are good. At least on paper, they're good, and he's holding them off. This time in Temple football reminds me a lot of, I really want to say like when I was at Temple. I remember when I was at Temple, we had like a bunch of pretty good running backs. Todd McNair was there, and Ventress Stevenson was there, and Shelley Poole was there, and Craig Sawyer, and a little later, Todd McNair's younger brother Scott came in. So we had kind of built a pretty good roster where we competed a lot at practice, competed in drills, competed in everything we did at practice, and I'm sure it's the same way now. And the only way you really get better is to bring in better people and push the people that are in front. And at this point, he's holding them off. But if he slips up, man, there's a whole lot of young bucks behind him to take over.
I know I'm going to sound a bit cliche, and I'm not going to say any riveting stuff right now, but a big point of emphasis for this Temple football team in the offseason was to win the battle in the trenches and establish that run game. And I really liked the play calling in the first two games up against Penn State and Cincinnati because they did that and then gave P.J. Walker about 20 throws a game. And then in the UMass game, they had to throw the ball 48 times, and it did lead to 2 interceptions. Do you feel like that Temple is going to try to give P.J. about 20 to 25 throws, maybe max him out at 28, and that's a better system for this football team than what we saw against UMass 2 weeks ago?
Sure, I think so. And I always say, like, my keys for my game. I'll say a whole bunch of other stuff, but I always say the battle in the trenches. If you don't win in the trenches, you don't win games. I think I was kind of surprised when they played UMass as well. UMass had given up a bunch of yardage the week before, and Thomas had a great game running the ball, and I really thought that we'd come out running the ball and try to mash them, but instead we came out, I think our first 2 series we went 3 and out, and we threw the ball all 6 times. So I think, with the time off that Temple's had, I hope that they've worked on the running game and trying to give the offensive lineman the opportunity to block a little bit. And this very well may be a game that they need. They may be physically a little better than this team, and they may try to impose their physicality upon them. So that's what I'm kind of hoping for. They really need to do it. If they do that, then it does make things a lot easier for PJ.
The biggest difference, though, I would say from PJ last year to this year at this time is there are just more pieces around him. And we've been talking about these pieces all throughout this entire interview as we're talking to Paul Palmer, the legendary Temple running back, finished second in the Heisman and now a color analyst for 97.5, The Fanatic. You take a look at those wide receivers. They bring in Adonis Jennings. They bring in Robbie Anderson. That has certainly benefited John Christopher in the slot. Who are the wide receivers, though, that really jump off the page at you? Because they're playing so many guys right now. Who would be those 3 guys that you say at the end of the year, those are their go-to guys at the wide receiver position?
Well, you've said 2, which is pretty obvious. That the incredible thing about I talked to Tyler Medikevich during camp, and he was saying how fast Adonis was. He said, Paul, it's amazing how fast this kid is. So Adonis can stretch the field. Robbie Anderson is everything really. They need to get him the ball, and he is He'll if you throw it up, he'll moss you. If you lay it out, he'll lay on the ground. Once he catches it, there's always a chance for some excitement once he catches the ball. And I think my other guy, among other people, is probably Ramon DeLoach. I'm kind of liking how Ramon is playing. He's a big wide receiver. You'll be surprised if you stand next to him, really how big he is. And I kind of like those 3, but then there's so many other more. There's young guys that are behind him. That are just playing well. I mean, a kid like Bentel Bryant is waiting in the wings to do his thing, and PJ has a lot to work with. There shouldn't be any excuses this year. And the capability of the receivers this year, as opposed to the past, is that if the ball isn't perfectly thrown, we still have a chance to catch the ball, and they help PJ out, and PJ will help them out as well.
Paul, you may be forgetting that I'm 6'4", so Ramon DeLoach doesn't look that big to me.
Well, if I'm 5'10", I'm 6 feet tall, so he looks pretty tall to me.
I would also like to see a little bit more of a vertical passing game, and I think they should take more shots downfield. You saw it in that Cincinnati game where they hit Robbie Anderson for the touchdown. But the tight end position, Kip Patton did look well in that UMass game. I'd like to see a little bit more out of Colin Thompson. What's the future for these tight ends as we get through the rest of the season?
I think if we start getting the stretch of the field, as we expect with the receivers we have, especially with Robbie and Jennings, if we start stretching the field like we would like, it's got to open things in the middle of the field. And actually, the tight ends have done they haven't gotten a lot of work, but the work that the tight ends have gotten they've done a pretty good job with it. I really hope that we can stretch the field with the speed we have, take a couple shots down deep. And then once you take a couple shots down deep, then maybe you get chances at the tight end over the middle or tight end on drag routes and let them kind of do their work a little bit. We have so much talent. It really is scary. We have so much talent. If you look at the running backs, the wide receivers, and the tight ends, that once we get it and figure out a way to get the ball and spread the ball out to everyone, this offense is going to be absolutely incredible.
I think you mentioned it perfectly. I think that Temple has a ton of talent, and with talent comes expectations. I know the team is only looking at it game by game, but from your perspective, how realistic is it at the end of the month on Halloween, Temple is undefeated facing Notre Dame?
You don't want to talk about it, but I think everyone is very much aware of it. I think the good thing, it appears that the team is taking it one step at a time, and they're not looking down the road. But trust me, my crew of old guys and hardened guys and what have you, they're looking down the road. We're all trying to piece together the possibilities of bowl games and things of that nature. But we're kind of keeping it quiet. We don't want to be too loud about it. We don't want to jinx anything. But we really have a chance to meet Notre Dame and both of us be undefeated. And with that, I mean, we played them well a couple of years ago. And with that, I think we can play them pretty well again.
They have a tough battle on Saturday, too, up against Clemson, and they're on the road as well in Notre Dame. But I'll be very loud. I know the Temple football team may not want it, but I will say that they will be undefeated going into that Notre Dame game. And also, you take a look at that defense. It's amazing how we haven't even talked about the defense in this interview yet, because they are the foundation of this team. They produce a lot of turnovers. They were great last year, and they survived 3 very good quarterbacks in the first 3 games. Week 1, you had the 10-sack performance. Then in week 2, it was bend, don't break. They forced the turnovers. Week 3, they weren't able to get a pass rush. Only 2 sacks from that Penn State game. How do they get a better rush on the quarterback? Because tonight, going up against Charlotte, Paul, and I know you know this, they play a platoon system at the quarterback position. They have 3 quarterbacks that have played this year, and they have 12 interceptions compared to 4 touchdowns. So how do they get that rush?
Oh, wow. It seems like, I mean, there were times against Penn State where it looked like we just beat them. Man-to-man beat them, and there was other times it looked like the scheme got the best of them. You know, one thing I'll say real quick about one of the great things about our defense is that we have a great senior and young in the secondary. We have a great senior in Tyler Medikevich at linebacker. We have a great senior in Ioannidis. In all 3 of those levels, you have great senior leadership. But I think Coach Snow, his schemes are absolutely wonderful, but I think our kids are physically beating up on people too, and I think it's a combination of both. And I think whatever Charlotte kind of throws at us tonight, we should be okay with it. And they may need all 3 quarterbacks tonight because our boys have been getting after it.
Now, you obviously played college football. You even played some pro football. I imagine you had a lot of different bye weeks in the season, some in the middle of the season, some late in the season, some early in the season. How important was it, or maybe not important was it, for Temple to have a bye week early on in their season?
I like it kind of better early in the season, especially after we've gone through what we've gone through. After playing so well, a lot of times in that bye week, the coach puts his thumb on you to kind of keep things in perspective, so you don't get the big head and you don't start thinking you're better than you really are. So a lot of times that extra week is a case for the coach to kind of beat you down a little bit, to let you know you may not be as good as you are, and you need to work harder to get even further than you are. So I like it early in the week. It gives us a break, and it gives us a chance to breathe before we kind of hit a tough patch with Notre Dame and East Carolina down the road.
Wrapping up with Paul Palmer before we let him go. We talked for so many years being here at Temple University as I'm in my senior year, whether it was through writing pieces on the television or on the radio. So we've basically been through your entire life. But I want to take you back to that 1986 season real quickly. And I understand Testaverde had a really good Miami team. The numbers don't lie, though, Paul. You had over 1,800 yards, 15 touchdowns in 11 games. Testaverde threw for 2,557 yards, 26 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Why didn't you win the Heisman? Because your numbers were just better.
I think it's just a different time now than it was then. Miami was nationally ranked. Miami's on TV every weekend. I mean, God knows I probably didn't have a nationally televised game at all my whole senior year. the exposure in social media and the way media is right now, it's just so big, and it's so easy to keep track of people. I think if possibly I'd played in this time, it may have very well been different. This time, meaning with the whole media aspect, it would have been different. But to even finish second is absolutely incredible. I know that I'm extremely proud of it, and there's a lot of people associated with Temple that are extremely happy and proud of that moment as well. So I have no complaints. It was good while it lasted.
If you played in 2015 with those numbers, 26 touchdowns these days seem nothing for a quarterback. You would have easily won the Heisman, Paul. I know you're being nice, but you would have won it in 2015. And I'm not just being nice to you because I really do like you, but you did have a really good coach in Bruce Arians, and he's having a lot of success winning Coach of the Year award after Coach of the Year award in the National Football League, has an undefeated Arizona Cardinals team that plays St. Louis. We've talked to Bruce before about you, and he said he loves you like a son. What are your take on just what Bruce Arians doing now in the National Football League? A lot of Temple guys these days dominating the league that they play for pay.
I am not surprised one bit that Arians is doing as well as he is. Coach has a very good eye for talent. I mean, I've said this before. I believe I told you before that Temple was the only Division I school that offered me a scholarship.
Yep.
The only one. The only Division I school that looked at me and thought, wow, this kid can play. So I have a lot of love for Coach Arians. Whenever I speak to him or talk to him, honestly, the conversation ends with, I love you, Coach. And he says, I love you, too. So I text him out every now and then to stay in touch. He's doing a great job. I could only imagine, if he had coached this time as opposed to coaching when he had coached. You talk about myself, but what about him? Who knows, where Temple would be right now. But he's a great coach. I love him to death. He's in so many instances, he kind of saved my life. It wasn't that bad, but he changed the trajectory of my life by just simply thinking enough for me to offer me a scholarship.
Well, Paul, we appreciate you coming on today. Have some fun with your buddies before the game. Not too much fun because Harry's going to need your help tonight on the Color Analyst, but we do appreciate you giving us a few minutes. Thanks so much, Paul.
Hey, man, you guys are wonderful. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. There's Paul Palmer, the great Paul Palmer, finished second in the 1986 Heisman for the Temple Owls, and just what an impressive performance he had that year. 186 yards, 15 touchdowns in 11 games, and it's great that he's still around this program and he's still doing some really great things with them, being the color analyst for Temple football and all that phenomenal stuff. And he still talks to these players, being a color analyst, and he gives a lot of good advice to Jihad Thomas, like you said.
Well, it was great to hear him talk. He was saying earlier that he even talked to a person on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Tyler Medikevich was talking about Adonis Jennings, so that's a wide receiver. He was talking to a linebacker about a wide receiver. I mean, he really is engulfed within this whole program, and it's great to see because that really is a Temple football legend.
He's everywhere, too, because when we went to the UMass game, when we checked into our room at Mohegan Sun, we popped on NFL Network before we went to go grab a bite to eat, and he's talking about the Nigerian Nightmare on the NFL Network. So Paul Palmer is everywhere, does a really great job. WHIP, ourselves, we will not be in Charlotte tonight. Temple's not paying for us to go there, so
unfortunately,
it's okay. But we will have the game up against Tulane right here on this station. So make sure you listen in to 97.5 tonight with Harry Donahue, Paul Palmer, and also Harry Mays, who does a good job on the sidelines. And you could also watch the game on CBS Sports Network. I forget who's doing the play-by-play, but I know Jay Feely is doing the color analysis tonight. So time in the WHIP studios is 11:35. We'll take a quick break, and when we get back, we got some Eagles talk to do. We got to preview Eagles and Redskins, NFL picks, college picks, still to come. He's Mike Zahn. I'm Zach Gelb. Take a quick break and be right back.